Pathmonk is the intelligent tool for website lead generation. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in the buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50%. Add Pathmonk to your website in seconds. Let the AI do all the work and get access to 50% more qualified leads while you keep doing marketing and sales as usual. Check us out, pathmonk.com. Welcome to today's episode. Let's talk about today's guest. We have Neel from Tropoly, founder, principal there with them. How you doing today, Neel?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Nah, it's great to have you on. And I mean, we're talking a little bit before the podcast, and you're a busy man, right? So I don't want to take too much of your time, and I'm sure listeners are tuning in wondering what Tropoly is all about. So let's kick it off with that, Neel. In your own words, can you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. At Tropoly, we call ourselves a brand strategy and scaling firm. There's three of us, three founders, and between the three of us, we have an array of experience across executive leadership, RevOps, revenue growth, and creative. And so we typically work with companies that are in growth, in their growth stage, and they're typically looking for what we call a change event. So an exit, an M&A, a fundraise, a product launch. So we like to align ourselves with those strategic initiatives. And in terms of services, we provide strategic marketing, go-to-market plans, positioning and branding, and then what we call scaling through foundation. So you hear about agencies and firms that scale through, advertising, lead generation. We tend to focus more on actually building out the functions within an organization so they can scale with a strong team and foundation. So typically around marketing, sales, customer experience, and RevOps.
Definitely. All right. Also to hear that from you guys. And so that way our listeners can get a good understanding of your company, Neel. What would you say is the key problem then that you solve for clients?
It's typically a sustainable path to scaling for companies that are mid-size and high growth. My personal experience, I've led through a company in all growth stages, from startup to hyper growth to public company. So it's in being able to help them achieve, a major milestone while they're dealing with the challenges of growth. So being able to position them in the market that they're in, and then helping them scale sustainably into their next phase of growth.
All right. Awesome. And so then who would you say, is there a vertical segment? Is there an ideal ICP for Tropoly?
So we typically like to work with companies that are technology enabled or tech forward, whether they're a SaaS-based company, B2B, or an industry that is getting tech enabled, like fintech, health tech, those type of industries. We're quite broad when it comes to industries. When it comes to a company profile, we're looking at anywhere from a couple hundred people to a couple thousand. And the sweet spot is that they are in a growth phase. And if we're talking about an ideal client, a buyer, that can range from, a head of product to a CEO. We work with founders and CEOs quite a bit. And if it's a CMO, typically their function is quite large. Otherwise, we end up butting heads with them.
Definitely. All right. Awesome. So that, what would you say is the a key or a top client acquisition channel for you guys? How do people usually find out about Tropoly?
Yeah, so most of our work comes through referrals and our network. And, I've been doing this for over 25 years. My partners have too. We have a lot of contacts and connections in all across North America and Europe, and in a lot of different industries. And just we're constantly networking, we're constantly reigniting, our contacts. And they tend to make introductions for us and we get referrals. And from our existing clients, we ensure we try to do the best work possible, so that they continue to bring us in, additional work.
All right, awesome, awesome. And so that way, the listeners who are tuned in can check you guys out. You could always check them out at tropoly.io. What role does a website play for your client acquisition?
Yeah, so we like to call it cloud cover, because a lot of our acquisition comes from person to person and through, introductions. Then they go and check us out. They check out our website. So we ensure that our website's properly messaged, properly structured. So it reinforces our message to them, it reinforces our pitch, it reinforces any materials we sent them. So it's more of a cloud cover so that they can find out more about, what we do and who we are.
Okay, awesome. And is there any tools, tips, methods, recommendations that you would give for our listeners as far as some website lead generation?
Yeah, there's a few things. Just your message needs to be clear as soon as somebody lands on your page. But look, we can't talk about it in isolation. So where are you in your journey in terms of your brand development, your brand awareness? Do people already know about you? Then your message is going to be different from a startup or a scrappy agency trying to grow, which would probably be a little bit more practical messaging, more about what you do. Whereas if your brand's really well known, maybe you showcase more about your projects, or, it's more about storytelling. Also, your website's not in isolation. What is your marketing plan? Where does it fit? Are you B2B? Are you B2C? Are digital channels good for you? Do you go to events? What is your social and content strategy? And how does the website fit in with all of that? So do not think about it in a silo. How is it integrated with your sales and your marketing strategies?
Definitely, that's important. Thank you so much for that for our listeners there. And well, let's switch gears a little bit, Neel, and let's talk about you being the founder, co-founder, principal with Tropoly. What are some key tasks you focus on your day-to-day work?
So no 2 days look alike. They haven't in my career, and it's the one thing that excites me. I think if things become monotonous, I get bored. But a typical week, I would say, is filled with calls with my colleagues, meetings with my colleagues, meetings with clients, pitches. We're getting more into writing content ourselves. That's something that, we need to focus on. So time for creativity and creative. Actually doing the work, working on the projects. Those are typically structured in a way where we're checking in with our clients on a regular basis, or our calendar does have time for that. And then just to supplement everything, I just keep my brain active. I love learning. I could be reading something. I could be listening to a podcast like this one. So I constantly keep it active. And I also ensure I have time for my health. There's something in my 40s I've learned. I wish I knew that in my 20s. Burnout's a real thing. So, creating whatever your own boundaries look like, whatever your, work life looks like, I think it's integrated. And I think you need to have space for your mental health and your physical health. So I go for walks, I listen to podcasts, I go to the gym, I try cooking, I'm learning Spanish. So I find doing those things makes my work a lot better.
Definitely important. Like you mentioned, different hats, especially, you being a founder, you got to really look into each issue if they're not going to tackle it. So kudos to you and balancing your life. That's awesome to have as well. But let's jump into our next section here, Neel, which is our rapid fire question rounds. Are you ready for them?
Sure. Let's do it.
Awesome. First off, Neel, what is the last book that you read?
Okay. I know this is rapid fire, and I used to read books cover to cover, and now I scan and I pull out things out of books. And then, just to give you a clear answer, I've read Atomic Habits recently, which I recommend. I've started rereading Sapiens, which is an amazing book. And just because my interests are very wide and varied, I read a book on neuroscience, Thousand Brain Theory by Jeff Hawkins, The Theory of Intelligence. Again, different aspects, get me to think differently about my own work. But I think those are the most recent. Oh, also a Spanish grammar book. So it's a mix. It's a mixed bag.
Definitely. All right. Great reads there. Next, Neel, what is one single thing that your company is focused on at the moment the most?
Single thing. Oh, more awareness for ourselves. So like I mentioned earlier, we have a strong network, but we also have a big well of knowledge that's kind of hidden between, only our clients see. So we are focused this year on being more on podcasts, creating more content, doing things like webinars, just getting some more value out there into the market. And our methodologies, I like to believe, are quite unique. Some of our experiences are valuable for other marketers and other people in the industry to hear about. So we want to be a little bit more visible this year.
Awesome. Next is, if there would be no boundaries, Neel, in technology, what would be that one thing that you want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
I'm going through a certain project where we're untangling like 4 different tech stacks, and that's the thing that's just ringing in my head. If there was one solution that combined outreach and account-based marketing with a CRM and with project management, with clear data that just worked cleanly and simply, that would be amazing.
Okay, awesome.
Instead of stitching together a whole bunch of, disparate tools, right? So if there's one clean way of doing that very simply out of the box, that would be amazing.
I'm sure someone's developing something like that, right? Because I think everybody needs it at one point. So definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And well, lastly, Neel, you do have a lot of experience already within the marketing world, but what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
As a marketer, so marketing is amorphous. It looks different in every organization. And so as a marketer, you need to, especially if you're a leader, but even if you're more junior, you should really understand the role it plays in the organization and the value it drives. So my advice would be learn about adjacent operations in a company. So learn about sales, learn about customer experience, learn about finance if you can, learn about human resources. You don't need to be experts in all these. Be a theoretical, nerd about it. The reason being is as your career matures in marketing, a lot of fingers get pointed at you, a lot of arrows get flung at you, especially from sales. But if you understand how they work, and if you understand the value you bring to an organization as a marketing function, how it affects the bottom line, that way you avoid making it a silo, which is a big problem in a lot of organizations. So really understanding how it integrates with other parts of the business, other departments, integrates with the goals, will make you a much more successful marketer.
Definitely some great advice there for our listeners. And well, Neel, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. I do want to give you the last word. If someone forgets everything about the interview today, what is that one thing they should remember about your company?
We like to pride ourselves, call ourselves missionaries and not mercenaries. And so what I mean by that is we typically call mercenaries those agencies or firms that come in and solve a specific problem and then they're out. The way we work with firms, we like to partner, and I know that's a buzzword. Everybody likes to partner with a business, but because of our experience in building and running companies, we intimately get to understand the problem that we want to solve, but also understand deeper the business and where it's going, and then build from there. We want to go for long-term relationships with our partners, as opposed to solving a problem, making a buck and getting out. And so In addition to that, we don't do cookie cutter methodologies. We do have methodologies. If it works for your problem, great. If it doesn't, we design a methodology around your problem. We fall in love with your problem and we design the methodology around it, and then we solve it, and then we scale it. So hopefully that's memorable. But it's no cookie cutting, and we're very integrated with our clients.
Definitely, that's important. And we're to our listeners, like I mentioned, you can check them out at Tropoly.io, a strategic marketing and innovation firm. Neel, thank you so much for being on with us today. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and looking forward to our next episode at Path Monk Presents. Thanks a lot, Neel.
Thank you so much, Ernesto.